This week we are discussing chapters 9 through 16 of Aisha Tyler's book, Self-Inflicted Wounds. I look like a blob. They only had a large size in this, and you don't say no when you see a cat sweater. Sorry. Now, the first note that I made was that I can't help feel like a lot of these chapters really could have been expanded while others could have just been cut completely. And I think it would have been nice to have less chapters that were more detailed instead of a whole lot of really short chapters. Even though reading a whole lot of chapters in a small amount of time gives me a false sense of accomplishment and makes me feel really good about myself. Also, I've sort of felt like something has been missing in some of these chapters, and I think I finally figured out what that is, and I think it is dialogue. I would really like to hear the father's voice and what he is saying, and I would really have liked to hear maybe a specific conversation about when that a cappella group was deciding to wear the mock turtlenecks, because I would love to hear how that conversation went. Hey, these turtlenecks make everyone look attractive. Also, I wanted to mention the setting. It's really weird that we are reading this book as I am currently living in San Francisco, because it is helping me imagine all of the area that much better. But also, it's kind of making me wonder what I would think of the descriptions of San Francisco and Oakland if I were not familiar with this area already. Also, she totally mentioned Japantown, and if you follow my Twitter or my Instagram, you know that I spend probably 90% of my non-working time in Japantown because I am obsessed with it, so I was really excited to see it in the book. It's kind of like that same feeling of when you like an obscure band and you see someone else wearing that band's t-shirt and you immediately know that you love that person. Also, I thought the description of what high school crushes are like was particularly spot on. When we are crushing on someone, they are a swirling blur of dimples and crooked smiles, hair flips, and skateboard tricks. They make us feel drunk, confused outside of our bodies. They are a small planet drawing us in with invisible gravitational force, but when we look back, we can't figure out what specifically made them so alluring. And I made a note that this chapter took me back to my first high school crush, which I think I've mentioned before in a video or in a podcast, and I'm not going to mention again because I think some people saw that, and now I cannot go to my 10-year reunion. Also, I think the a cappella group chapter was the first chapter in this section where I really felt secondhand embarrassment for Aisha Tyler and towards one of her self-inflicted wounds. Also, this was one of the only chapters in the section where it felt like I really do look like a blob. I look like I've given up on life. I look like I'm about to take flight. Caw-caw! Bird song. I gotta get back on track. This was one of the first chapters in the section where it felt like the message was actually concrete and inspiring, which I liked. Although, I definitely would have liked to hear more about the group and the actual performances. This is one of the chapters that I would have wanted to see expanded. So overall, I am still kinda hoping that we are going to get out of Aisha Tyler's childhood and teenage years, because I really want to hear about some self-inflicted wounds from adulthood. So next week, read... Oh, I didn't even see what we're supposed to read next week. Best book club ever. Read from chapter 17 to chapter 24, which is the time I danced tragically in front of my entire college to the time I wore that awful see-through dress. And we will be discussing them here. This week, I am kind of curious to know what you guys have thought about the lack of dialogue in this book, or the shortness of some of the chapters, and also any other thoughts that you may have on this book so far. So read up, and I will see you guys Wednesday. Fly away.